Hello, this is George F551, and we are doing yet another walkthrough of the Mall of Whitney Field for two reasons. The first being that there were a couple of more stores that have shuttered their doors, and two, there are actually plans to revitalize the mall. But before we get to that, we'll just go over a little more history before we get to the current. And I get a kick out of that display not functioning. From 1967 to the point that Jones Lang LaSalle bought it in the early aughts, this was Sears Town Mall, and it was filled to the brim, and it was a low-rent, low-budget retail mall. It had a lot of the popular stores, but it was, again, more for the lower income. In fact, before the mall's heyday in the 80s, strangely enough, there was a GNC and it closed. Typically those close whenever a mall dies, but that one in this mall closed just before it became the biggest it's been. As you can see though, it has been faring pretty badly. So, yet again, another couple of stores have closed as I mentioned. We will be getting to those as we come across them. But as I have mentioned, Jones Lang LaSalle had bought this place in the aughts, and they wanted to upscale it to a more upscale variety. So they let almost 60% of the leases lapse, so this place has been in a worse condition. However, unlike now, it was simply to get rid of undesirable tenants and get the ones they want in. These days, the internet has pretty much killed shopping. And here's a product from 1967, this sort of arch we're going under. Used to be the R.H. White's department store. The next arch we go under, after taking a right-hand turn, was the very back of the original 1967 mall. So when they couldn't find anyone to fill in the space, they just turned it into more mall shops. And we got a Hanush Jewelers here, and we're going to pick up this little piece right at the Burlington. We're going to be walking down the hall, so it doesn't make sense to go down it twice, being that there's literally only a couple things. Besides the closed Chuck E. Cheese that was on the far right. And there's the other way in, the Burlington. There was a store there. And the glass one used to be a Chinese restaurant when that used to be a row of restaurants. Now that I recall, I think the green one was a Sbarro's, and we're looking at the Chuck E. Cheese, and the far right portion of it used to be an arcade called the Dream Machine, or TJ's, way back in the early Sears Town days. So, anyway, with Jones Lang LaSalle, as I was going to say Joan Jangs, but you get the idea, they kicked out nearly 50 to 60% of the tenants and put in upscale ones in hoping to get the higher clientele that moved in the area from the Boston region. But that backfired ultimately, and now we're in this condition, where a lot of places are closed up. And here we are, the trio of dead stores that I was mentioning. Besides the immediate storefront and the dead kiosk, the Christopher and Banks, the white one, is a new shutdown, as well as the GameStop immediately next to it, just before we enter the second arch where the original 1967 mall ended. And this was a early 90s edition. Over here. Again, this was the heyday of the mall. And this side fares slightly better. So, now we're looking at things as they are. Again, we got a very high vacancy rate. And pretty much the reason that we are bringing up this video, and by the way, this is being recorded in the middle of a Saturday afternoon. There's a little traffic, but not a lot. And the camera, as I always mention, it's hidden away. Set it, forget it. If it flops, tilts, it is what it is. I think I had it, for the most part, fairly straight this time. Anyway, and the reason for bringing up this particular video and going through yet again is if Hull Properties, which now owns the mall, will soon start to do major renovations within the space. They're going to wait till after hours to start. One of the things they're going to do is lighting, and one of the things I find interesting, and we'll look again, the Dunkin' Donuts is closed. Wonder if a COVID case happened there. Anyway, here's the food court, sad and pathetic as it is. Got a mom and pop pizzeria and Chinese place, and then an Oriental place next to that. And we got the giant shoe store, which took up another space that was vacated a while ago. Shoe department encore. What every mall needs. And the long vacated Olympia on the right. And a Payless, also vacated a long time ago on the right. And here we are coming to where Santa Claus and Easter Bunny was, and hasn't been used since, is the child play area. In fact, as you can see, none of the toys or slides are even there anymore. And here at JCPenney, you can see they got a divider left in the middle. They are trying to direct traffic, those coming in on the right, those leaving on the left, making the turnaround and getting a better look at the play area, because without all the amusements that were in the middle, you can see it's a relatively basic, board game type layout. Probably had pieces to go with it and everything, all taken away till the pandemic is over. And there's the dead Olympia long before the pandemic went and took it away. Heading back towards the food court, which, in all honesty, it never was a good food court. It used to have seating for about 50 people or so, which isn't all that much. And during the mall's heyday, oddly enough, the pizza joint was a Sbarro's. It moved from the original expansion where Burlington was. And there were camera stores and other types of shops there, but not food. Anyway, we're looking at that exit door. At one point, Bradley's used to enter the mall there, so that actually went into a store. And you can't see it because of the saturation of light, but a couple 100 feet past the door was where the what used to be Demola's supermarket, and now it is a furniture store. But before it was a furniture store, it was a Toys R Us. Then we were looking at the vacant Popcorn Castle, which was an Orange Julius prior to that. This side barely, and I mean barely, fares better. Somehow the Rue 21 is still hanging on, as well as the California Nails. Those are actually fairly original tenants from at least the Whitney Field days. And then the East and West, that seems to be a popular thing. This is a bigger one than I see in other malls. And then we got the dead store that's over there. I think it was an Abercrombie and Fitch. I wasn't sure. Actually, I don't think it was. I still don't remember what it is. But the Eyebrow Studio 33 was an Aeropostale, or Aristotle, as I like to call him. And there's a hot topic for you. Literally. And once again, we're looking at the trio of dead stores. The recently died GameStop that was there on the right. I don't even remember what that was. But the Maurice, the bluish green, that didn't last very long. And then we're passing by the Christopher and Banks that was on the right. And I don't remember the one immediately to the one that I'm passing. There's the Maurices again. So, plans are that soon that Hull Properties is going to renovate and update the look of the mall. And the important thing is that apparently they have ideas as to who to bring into the mall and bring it back to life. Now the question is, after the renovations, will they be successful in doing so? This mall has come back before. It's been even more dead than this. And it came back. Problem is, the internet is killing, brick and mortar. And you saw the torrent, but half of that is actually vacant space. And then the Old Navy. And I never really bothered going down the Macy's wing because there's really nothing there except for a salon. So it'll be interesting to see how this is going to look when Hull Properties gets done with it. And if they are successful to get new tenants, shuffle tenants around, see what comes in, or replaces what was there, like the Sears or the Macy's. It would be sad to see the Sears literally go. The Macy's, not so much. I mean, that was a 2004 building. We looked into a Hot Topic, and we looked into a Spencer's. So we're pretty much at the end of the mall, more or less. The last thing we've got is the Joann's. And once again, we come up to the dying board. The advertising board that isn't working. So I just decided to go up and take a look at it and see what it's doing. Oh, the old boot agent. One of the machines at work has one of those, and at this point it would stop and it says there's an error, and it just loops back and tries to reboot again. So that thing's in an infinite loop of failure. Maybe somebody will fix it. And this was and always only was a Friendly's that was right next to the Lens Crafters. There used to be a jewelry store right at the end of where Joann's is, right next to where Sears was. And it had a turntable that was really annoying to listen to as a little kid because it made a high-pitched squeal. And as an adult, well, you couldn't kind of hear that all that much anymore. And as always, we end looking in the dead Sears. This is George F551 saying hope you enjoyed, and have a good one.